welcome. If you're a movie buff, it comes as a huge relief when a film you like has been liked by a whole lot of other people. And that's because it means that your kind of cinema has a greater chance of getting made. Kahaani gives a different kind of Hindi cinema a shot in the arm. The sharp, taut thriller set in Kolkata, we believe, has earned more than 7 or 8 times the budget it was made on, and the TV and DVD rights are yet to be sold. So, what is the story behind Kahaani? For that, we're going to meet Sujoy Ghosh, the writer-filmmaker, who's my guest today on the show, and for who this film was pretty much a do-or-die effort. Sujoy, it's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And you live to die another day, isn't it?
Correct.
Thanks
next
to Kahaani.
Friday. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but thank you so much for liking Kahaani. Like what you said just now, it actually was a do and die, because if Kahaani didn't work, I would have had to pack my bags and go away.
Everybody is talking about the story of Kahaani.
Yeah.
Okay, but I must say that for me, the movie worked because of the storytelling, perhaps more than the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is the storytelling a direct result of the story, or can the story actually be completely different from the story and elevate the story to a whole new level?
I think directing is all about storytelling. I mean, my job is to tell a story, and the story could be told in a different, various manner. A story has to be the germ, but the storytelling does not necessarily have to follow the story, because if you're writing a story like a screenplay, then you're totally losing the charm of a story.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're just redoing what you just did. So I think a story should be a separate entity on its own, and then you as a director and your team, we come in and say, okay, this is the story, and we will add a little element to it, maybe subtract some element from it, and we'll tell it in this manner.
A budget of less than 8 crore rupees. Would I be right in saying that those constraints actually now in hindsight were things that contributed to making the movie perhaps better than it was? Would I be right if I said that the choice of Kolkata was because of the budget? I mean,
Yes,
it's a city which is
and
cheaper.
No. Definitely, but yes and no, because my choice of Kolkata was predominantly because I knew the city. Okay, and when we were growing up, we didn't have video, we didn't have TV, we didn't have internet, right? We were just heavily banking on those little patlu books, you know, those mystery books. And if you look at most of those mystery books, whenever you read a thriller, especially when we read a lot of Satyajit Ray, it was always the place and the adventure in the place, like Gangtok e Gondogol, something set in Gangtok, you know, Gorostan e Shabdan, something in a graveyard. Now, from what I have learned, you know, by reading thrillers and by reading books around the world is very important to a thriller, where you set the world, you know, and I knew Kolkata, so I could only set a thriller in Kolkata because then I could incorporate Kolkata as a character in the film. I knew the emotions of Kolkata, I knew what time Kolkata woke up. Because
the way the story is, it could actually be any city,
could
anywhere.
Be, absolutely, you're absolutely right. I mean, she could have been an English woman gone to Brazil, you know, it could have, but I don't know about Brazil.
So you're saying that it is your familiarity with that city and its pulse and the budgetary constraints which gave that city such an important role in Kahaani.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. And the budget did help, because in terms of doing it in Kolkata, but I could accrue a lot of favors. You know, right now I'm totally indebted to Kolkata. I mean, anybody can at any time come and ask my favor back. Because on paper, Kahaani is a very expensive project. You know, if you read the script and you did an independent evaluation of the budget, it's an extremely expensive script. But you can't do that. You know, you can't make a solo Vidya Balan film with a director who has 2 colossal flop behind him for that that kind of money. So we had to be more pragmatic, we had to be very real, and Kolkata was by far the best choice. And also, you know, I went to Kolkata a few times and I met a lot of people, and they really kept telling me Kolkata has some unique technicians. You know, we tend to ignore regional cinema, but the discipline they imbibe, the kind of technicians they have, are really on a national level. I mean, Kahaani is a living proof.
Let's talk about the craft of the film, because I go back to the point I made earlier, which is that for me, I think the strength of Kahaani is the storytelling even over the story, and therefore that's a direct compliment to you and your team when it comes to being craftsmen, which is using all the techniques and tools available to you. The atmospherics of the film, is that design, is that constraint being, you know, sometimes a handicap becomes an advantage. It's the way you play it and see it, because there were so many long montages of the city. So I'm wondering what your script must have looked like. And she's in the car, Rana and Vidya are in the car.
Yeah. Rana and Vidya in the car, yeah. But you know,
and in the car, and in the car, and in the car.
And you know, it was a really tough call to make, because we took a very ad hoc approach to making this film, because each film comes with its own demand in terms of storytelling. Like Aladdin had a different way we could sit, we could plan, we could design, we had a lot of time. But since I wanted to involve you in the journey of Vidya, there were a lot of rules we set right in the beginning. You know, right in the beginning of the whole film, we set a lot of rules with my DOP, Setu. He's also from Kolkata, my school. So we set a rule, like for example, the camera will never leave from inside the car. The audience.
Which is why you had so many shots from behind Rana, of his back, of her profile.
Correct.
Very often in shadow.
Because I want you to sit in the back seat. You know, I want you to sit in the back seat. And this is a technique which I've learned from Ray, because Ray did that in Aurane Din Ratri, because he wrote about this.
Like, this is on the journey they go off to the Palamu.
Palamu, and they're always in the camera is always inside the car, which is incredible, because there's 4 of them. I mean, here there's 2 of them, but there was 4 of them, and the camera was always inside, so you felt like you're sitting with them in the car, and it works beautifully.
So this is design.
This is design, because you know, Anuradha, what happened? The hardest thing to do on screen is to invoke emotion. Since Vidya is going to take me, she's my tour guide. I'm going to follow Vidya. As a result, you'll see what Setu forcefully did. He always followed Vidya. So to a certain extent, there were times we said, Vidya, you do whatever you want, let the camera follow you. As a result, you'll see a lot of shots which are a little out of focus. So it takes that slight, minute second to get back into focus. I'll give you another example. That journey which Rana and Vidya takes from Kalighat to the first time she goes to Mona Lisa, it's a transition. I didn't believe that in Hindi cinema you could have an evening. Like day becomes night. It's either day, always night. So Setu had a huge argument. No, we can't do evening. So that madman, he took this shot, and you can see a transition slowly, you know, like I don't know how to say it in Hindi, but in Bengali, Shondha hoche. You know, it's like slowly dusk comes, dark, and by the time so all these
gradual. So that's the word
you're more literate than me, absolutely.
Thank you.
So so that gradual process happened, and you know, these kind of things we jumped in. We didn't know whether it's going to work or not, but Setu seemed damn convinced. You know, I was like pretty convinced. I said, yeah, man, let's go for it.
Was casting a very, very critical thing?
Casting was really critical. I'll be very honest with you. We worked very hard, but the casting that happened, very weirdly, on the spur of the moment, turned out to be the best casting, which is Rana. Param is a hippie. I mean, like Param is nothing like the Rana you see, but he's such a fantabulous actor.
Yeah, he's very
you know,
good.
And I think acting is about reacting.
Yeah.
You know, acting is not about going. If you see Mr. Bachchan, he reacts. His eyes speak. Vidya's eyes speak. Rana's eyes speak. You know, and that's great. Nawaz, you know, that little guy, he comes with such force. So Rana, he was roaming around in Europe doing absolutely, you know, nothing.
Having a good
so
time.
he just came back. We forced him to chal. And we just literally came back day before yesterday, and today shot. Shashwato, the gentleman who plays Bob,
who I think is the spookiest character I've seen in Hindi cinema in a long time. I mean, he really gave me the chills. He's so good.
And that is a pure design, because there were 2 elements to it. And the design was, you do Bob, you create Bob. This is my brief for Bob. You go and create your Bob, and I'll create you on screen. See, because the definition, when I wrote Bob, Bob was basically a person amongst us in a crowd. That was the basic guideline. So how do you do that? How do you show somebody's
so ordinary?
So ordinary. So Shashwata went and got his pot belly and his way, he created that whole thing. So we went and designed when Shashwata was, whenever you see Shashwata, is always amongst people.
Yeah.
He's always one of them. He's not an individual who you can easily spot, and so he's wearing leather jacket, a leather pair of boots, and he's carrying a sniper rifle.
I think you see him on his own only when he's actually committing the act.
That's the only time, and the first time he's snoring away. So otherwise he's always amongst people. So I think that what got people a little, because fear always comes from unknown. If you have to create fear, you have to create something unknown in your mind which really scares the shit out of you. So the fact, I think most of the people get spooked out by Shashwata because they can't spot him. They can't. They don't know how to spot a Bob. So I think that worked.
That was the biggest triumph, you think, in terms of characters?
It became. It wasn't meant to be, but it became. My biggest triumph, I have to say, I mean, no disrespect to anybody, is Vidya Bagchi. I mean, that's my biggest triumph. And for me, that is my biggest triumph, and my biggest responsibility, and my biggest relief, and my biggest pillar of support ever.
But when you create a pregnant woman and you've got a good actor to do it, don't you already have the audience on your side?
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, with Vidya, what happens with Vidya, you get a nice quality stamp on your project, and people expect. But the thing is, even then, that doesn't guarantee anything. No disrespect to Vidya, no disrespect to any of my crew. So
don't be politically correct.
No, not a question.
I think we understand.
It's not a question like, but you know, she worked her ass off, for lack of a better thing, to get Vidya Bagchi in. You know, the vulnerability she brought to that role, you know, which made everybody care for her, including the audience, including us on the set, which was incredible, because it's not easy. It's not easy. Like I remember once when she was starting to cry, if you see her hand starts shaking first, which is incredible. You know, nobody does that. You know, and I'm totally grateful to Namrata for keeping that. You know, when you see the edit, you see her hand start shaking first, and then she starts crying, which is brilliant. These little between the lines she did was incredible.
You know, what was also interesting is how minimal things were. For instance, you know, Rana goes home on that tram, and it's a slow burn of a Calcutta night or a Kolkata night. And you know, his shirt is slightly loose, and you know,
Garam
Garam Lagche, exactly.
He's basically heat.
And he does this, I'm coming home, so his mother's calling to check on him. All of those touches, I think, I mean, you know, for me, those were the best parts of the film, because you managed to tell so much of a story without lingering in creating scenes and dialogue and all of that. So what happened to Sujoy Ghosh? Because the other movie I've seen of yours is only Jhankar Beats.
Okay.
And there you lingered too much and overtold the story. Is this the real Sujoy Ghosh? How does one understand a filmmaker?
I don't know, because again, I keep going back to the story. It's the demand of a story. I, as a director, I try to tell a story. I mean, if you give me a story, I try to tell it in the best possible way I can. So Jhankar was the first movie I've ever told, and you know, it demanded certain things. It was like a slice of life. It was people I knew. It was
your situation, your milieu.
It was Jhankar was for me a lot of decision making. You know, characters at certain point of time who kept getting faced with decisions which they didn't want to tackle. You know,
I didn't see the two movies in between. I'm sorry, and I don't see. It seems I haven't missed much. Are you? And you admit that.
I think so, but
no. But are you giving in to the tyranny of the audience?
No.
Because the audience has not liked the film. It hasn't done well. But did you like those two movies? Because
I love all my.
I
love all my movies are like my children. Right?
I mean, it could be.
And the children which is more handicapped is more close to me.
Okay, because it could be that Kahaani would have been made exactly the way you made it, and people didn't care for it. It's known to happen to a lot of very good films.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to Home Delivery and Aladdin, do you stand by them, or do you say audience didn't like them, so they are bad movies? What do you say?
I think it didn't work with the audience, and that's all that matters. Because we are here to serve the audience. So we have to be, you know, if you don't get that in your head, it's very hard to move on. You have to understand. I could sit here and, you know, scream till the cows come home. I made a fantastic movie. Ye nahi hua. It's you know, before time, and audience didn't get it. Bollocks. It's not like that. Audience didn't like it. Your movie is not good. Move on.
If a film doesn't do well, for Sujoy Ghosh, that film is a bad film.
That's my failure.
No question.
No, I'm a storyteller. I failed to tell you a story which didn't grab your attention. I failed to combat your mobile phone, which I did pretty well with Kahaani. With Aladdin, I didn't. Okay.
So why do you think you got it right in Kahaani?
I don't
why
know.
didn't you get it right in the other
I don't know.
films?
I mean, this is a craft where you cannot learn anything from your failures. I strongly believe that.
Really?
You cannot learn. You cannot dissect a film. And film and say, okay man, I went wrong there, so next time I won't go wrong. Bollocks, that doesn't happen. And anybody says that happens is lying through his teeth.
How did you react when some people, I'm sure, must have told you that, you know, this story, because of the twist that you've used, and I'm not going to go into the detail because there still may be people, or I'm sure there are people who haven't seen it, and I think it's going to be a spoiler, but the twist that you had actually made people lose, not lose sympathy, but perhaps feel a disconnect with the protagonist, because the protagonist has your sympathies, because you believed the protagonist to be a kind of person, and turns out to be another kind of person.
No, I totally buy that, and that's the reason, and I didn't get flack for that. What I got flack for, and I'm glad you brought this up, thank you, because I got flack for the last scene of the film. Okay, now for me that last scene was very important. I wouldn't have been able to do this film without that last scene. If that last scene wasn't in the script, I wouldn't have done this film. For me, as a maker, as a storyteller, that was my conviction. You know, that's where I took a stand of the last scene of the film, right? And I thought the climax, which rightfully, if I did that, I would have just, if I just kept it there, it would have been, oh look, I'm such a smart storyteller and I totally had you fooled and blah 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 blah. But that last scene I thought totally compensated for that, you know, and I needed that last scene in order to tell the audience, no, we didn't cheat you.
I must say that for me, the end of the film was disappointing, but because you gave me such a fabulous ride for 98% of the movie, I was willing to say, it's okay, it's your call, you took that call and that was your story. But for me, that was
a dampener.
Yeah.
Agreed, you know, and also,
but I enjoyed the storytelling so much that I said, okay, it's okay, I will not quarrel with the filmmaker on this count, let it be.
Yeah, and you're right, you know, because again, it's a creative thing, Anuradha, because you come from a creative thing. Like I have got calls from, you know, who are my biggest, what's the word, TG, na? Target group.
Target group, yeah.
TG, yes. Yeah. You know, my TG was youth and all these. You know who my biggest appreciators are? All the 50 plus. You know, they identified with that ending. They identified with the fact that she got something, but in return she had to give up the most important thing in her life. That realization was very important to them. And I think whoever says, like how you said, is absolutely right, because this is a creative thing. You know, it can be written in many ways.
Yeah.
So I can't really argue with you.
And I can't argue with you
exactly,
either,
because you know, you're right. You know, you're absolutely right in what you're saying. And but then again, this is a decision that I took, and I had to take that because I took that, that 98% where you say you're very happy happened.
Yeah, that's true.
If I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to give you that 98%.
So I come back to the question which I still don't have an answer to. Who is Sujoy Ghosh, the filmmaker? Is he Jhankar Beats? Is he Aladdin? Is he Home Delivery? Is he Kahaani? It's easy to say Kahaani because that's the most successful.
No,
but really,
I just want to be a storyteller. You give me any story, I'll tell it.
You do understand the impact that an author, story writer, storyteller, filmmaker has. Do you see yourself as that? And if you do, then what is your cinema? Because currently I'm just completely clueless.
Even I am. I don't know what my cinema is.
Can I hazard a guess? Because you seem to be
I'm totally confused. Yeah, I don't know who I am because I don't want to know who I am.
I think Jhankar Beats is your sensibility.
Probably.
In the space, in the milieu, in the storytelling, in the breezy style, all of that. I think Kahaani was out of what you know and what you really want to do, and you were good at it. But that's not really you. Am I right?
Could be, but
could be.
I don't know. No, because I'll tell you one thing. What I agree with you on this, Kahaani was totally unsafe for me. It's a turf I've never been to. So I was very conscious to a certain extent. I kept myself on toes. I didn't take it for granted. If I do another Jhankar, I'll take it for granted, which I relate. So even though Jhankar probably you think is my turf, which may be true, absolutely true, but I'll never go back there again. If you see the edit style of Jhankar, it's a very thriller-like edit. Tuck, 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 it's happening. And I did that because that time, I think when we were starting out with Jhankar, it was done purely to battle a remote control. You know, like the tendency of surfing is so much. So we said we'll cut it like a thriller. So I like the technique of a thriller. I like the pace of a thriller. And I think it'll be great if I could create thrilling moments out of life. that's where I'm going. And that's the space I really enjoyed.
I don't think I'm wrong if I say two things here. One is that almost everybody who went to see the movie went to see it to see what Vidya Balan was doing next.
Correct.
And the other thing was because she worked like a dog to promote the film. She was just doing whatever it took to sell the film, and you know, it's quite incredible.
Yeah,
so is Kahaani's success thank you to Dirty Picture's success?
Yes, to a certain extent. It's also thank you to Jessica, it's also thank you to Pa, to Ishqiyan, to all those films that she did, which she went from strength to strength. But thanks to that, Anuradha, you know, my biggest, my biggest building on my head when Kahaani was releasing was Vidya Balan. Because I didn't want to be that guy who said, this poor girl, she worked so hard to till Dirty Picture, and you're the guy who totally brought it down. You know, that was
I know exactly what you mean.
You know, that pressure was like, and I really didn't, because Vidya is such a nice human being, you know, and I know her for yonks, and I didn't want to be that guy, you know. I was praying to God, please God, let me not.
Well, I know what you mean, because it is a double-edged sword, because of the interest in her, everybody's interested in Kahaani. But if the movie didn't work for people, that would be her first downer after quite a long
and she would never buy me coffee again and cigarette again, and you know, like that's the whole thought of buying my own coffee or cigarette was killing me. And,
I can imagine that pressure.
Definitely the fact that she did all these films, the fact that she got the national award, which was a gift from God just 2 days before the release, it definitely brought my audience into the hall. But after that, I think credit to Vidya, when people went out of Kahaani, they only spoke about Kahaani.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely endorse
So
that.
I'm totally grateful to all these 5 movies for bringing my audience into the hall. But also same time, I think it's a credit to Vidya that when they walked out of that hall, all those were forgotten.
So Sujoy Ghosh, you get another lease of life in the Hindi film industry.
Till next Friday. I'm here till next Friday. Yes, absolutely.
Sujoy Ghosh, it was
Thank you
lovely
so
talking
much.
to you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And
All
thank
the
you for
best.
this coffee.
Thank you.